Cathy Chambers had always been fascinated by the minds of criminals. She wondered what made people choose a life of crime. This curiosity led her to become a criminal psychologist. She was one of the best. Now, she worked for the Foreign Bureau of Investigation, a special branch of the FBI. Her job was to understand the most dangerous criminals in the world. She helped bring them to justice. Her skills were unique and highly valued. She could see patterns where others saw only chaos. This made her an essential part of the team. One rainy afternoon in Luanda, her supervisor, Agent Miller, called her into his office. The air was thick with tension. He handed her a thick file with a single name on the cover: Don Salvatore. This was her new case. Don Salvatore was the leader of the Angolan mafia. He was a ghost, a man who controlled the city from the shadows. His organization was powerful and dangerous. They had been causing chaos in Luanda for months, and local authorities were struggling. Agent Miller explained that the FBI needed her special psychological expertise to finally stop him. Cathy accepted the challenge without hesitation. She felt a familiar thrill, a mix of excitement and a deep sense of duty. She knew this case would be her hardest yet. Don Salvatore was not just a common criminal, he was a mastermind. His influence stretched into every corner of the city. He had built an empire based on fear and loyalty. Cathy opened the file, her eyes scanning the first few pages. The reports painted a picture of a ruthless and intelligent leader. She was ready to step into his world and understand what made him tick. Back in her own office, Cathy began her work. The city lights of Luanda twinkled outside her window, but she barely noticed them. Her entire focus was on the documents spread across her desk. There were police reports, witness statements, and financial records. Each piece of paper was a small part of a very large puzzle. She read every word carefully, searching for clues, for any sign of weakness in Don Salvatore's empire. She knew that somewhere in this mountain of information, there was a key that would unlock the entire operation. Her mission had officially begun. The nights in Luanda grew long for Cathy. Her office became her second home. She worked tirelessly, fueled by countless cups of strong black coffee. The case consumed her thoughts. She meticulously analyzed every piece of evidence, every witness testimony, and every grainy surveillance photo. She created a large board on her wall, connecting names with lines of colored string. It looked like a complex spider's web, a reflection of the mafia's own network. She was not just looking for facts. She was trying to understand the psychology behind the organization and its elusive leader, Don Salvatore. Slowly, a clear picture began to emerge from the chaos of information. Cathy discovered the intricate structure of the Angolan mafia. It was a sophisticated web of informants and enforcers. Informants were everywhere, hidden in plain sight as shopkeepers, officials, or even street vendors. They fed information back to the organization, ensuring Don Salvatore was always one step ahead. The enforcers were the muscle, a brutal force that maintained control through intimidation and violence. They punished anyone who dared to cross the mafia, making sure fear kept the city silent and compliant. Cathy's psychological training was crucial at this stage. She profiled the key members of the network, understanding their motivations, fears, and loyalties. She realized that many were trapped, forced into a life of crime with no easy way out. Others were driven by greed and a thirst for power. By understanding these individuals, she could predict their next moves. She identified the weakest links in the chain, the people who might be convinced to talk if pressure was applied in the right way. This deep understanding of human nature was her greatest weapon against the powerful crime syndicate. After weeks of relentless work, Cathy presented her findings to Agent Miller and the rest of the FBI team. Her board was a masterpiece of detective work. She pointed to the key figures, explaining their roles and psychological vulnerabilities. She had mapped out their safe houses, their front businesses, and their communication channels. The web was no longer a mystery. Cathy had shone a bright light on its darkest corners. The team now had a clear plan of action. They were finally ready to start dismantling Don Salvatore's criminal empire piece by piece. With Cathy's detailed intelligence, the FBI launched a series of coordinated raids across Luanda. Under the cover of darkness, tactical teams moved swiftly through the city streets. They hit mafia safe houses, warehouses filled with illegal goods, and offices that served as fronts for money laundering. The element of surprise was on their side. Cathy was in the command center, listening intently to the radio chatter. Each report of a successful entry and arrest was a victory. The web she had so carefully mapped out was now being torn apart. The operation was a major success. Many of Don Salvatore's most trusted lieutenants and enforcers were captured. The team seized large amounts of cash, weapons, and incriminating documents. The arrest sent a shockwave through the city's underworld. For the first time in years, the mafia's grip on Luanda seemed to be weakening. The citizens felt a flicker of hope. The news channels were filled with stories of the raids, praising the FBI's decisive action. Cathy felt a surge of pride, but she knew the job was not finished yet. The head of the snake was still free. Despite the numerous arrests, Don Salvatore had vanished. He was like a ghost, slipping through their fingers just when they thought they had him cornered. Every captured mafia member was interrogated, but none knew where their leader was hiding. He was too smart for that. He had built a system where no single person knew all his secrets. Cathy returned to her evidence board, feeling a mix of frustration and determination. She searched for a clue they might have missed, a tiny detail that could lead them to the man at the top. Her persistence paid off. While reviewing a stack of seized documents from one of the raids, she found something unusual. It was a small handwritten note tucked inside an old book. It mentioned a specific address, a rundown apartment building on the outskirts of Luanda, and a cryptic phrase. It was not much, but it was the only lead they had. Cathy's intuition told her this was it. This was where she would find Don Salvatore. She knew she had to act quickly, before he had a chance to disappear again forever. Cathy didn't wait for backup. She knew time was critical. She drove to the rundown apartment building on the edge of the city, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and adrenaline. The building was old and silent, a perfect place for a ghost to hide. She found the apartment number from the note and stood before the door, taking a deep breath. With a surge of courage, she kicked the door open. There, sitting in a simple chair by the window, was Don Salvatore. He was older than she expected, with weary eyes that held no surprise, only resignation. He was not armed. The room was sparse, containing only the chair, a small table, and a single suitcase. This was not the grand hideout of a powerful kingpin, but the final refuge of a defeated man. Cathy kept her weapon raised, her voice steady as she spoke. She didn't shout or make threats. Instead, she used her skills as a psychologist. She spoke to him about his life, about the empire he had built and lost. She told him it was over, that there was no escape, and that surrendering was his only remaining choice. Don Salvatore listened silently, his gaze fixed on the city below. He saw the police cars beginning to surround the building, their lights flashing in the twilight. He knew Cathy was right. His network was shattered, his loyal men were in prison, and his power was gone. He looked at Cathy, a determined woman who had outsmarted him not with force, but with intelligence and understanding. With a heavy sigh, he slowly raised his hands in surrender. The long and dangerous chase was finally over. The king of Luanda's underworld had been dethroned. As Don Salvatore was led away in handcuffs, Cathy watched from the window. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden glow over the city. A sense of deep satisfaction washed over her. Luanda was safer now. Justice had been served. She had faced her most difficult challenge and emerged victorious. The case had tested her limits, but it had also reinforced her purpose. Feeling proud and ready for whatever came next, Cathy Chambers returned to the FBI headquarters, prepared for her next case, her next puzzle, her next journey into the criminal mind.